All right, welcome back to another episode of Real Talk. Jeff here. Brad, what's up, man?
What is going on, dude? How are you?
Dude, I'm truthfully, arrogance aside, cockiness aside, confidence aside, I'm just like on a football scale, all-time high. This is a great
Yeah.
feeling all the way around. I feel like my teams are playing great ball right now. Lots to be excited about, both collegiately and professionally. And yeah, I love football right now. Football's a good thing.
Heck yeah.
What about you, man?
Well, I mean, Michigan wins the Big Ten championship. Manchester United win their first game under their new coach, and then the Steelers pull off what would be a big upset, but I mean a really good game, and they won it. So three and zero on the weekend. That's always a great feeling coming into Monday and Tuesday starting your week. So I'm right there with you, man. I'm feeling real good.
Yeah. I wanted to kick things off talking a little bit about Patriots Bills Monday Night Football. And I feel like there's a lot to get to with this game. But briefly, if you for some reason live under a rock and you're listening to this podcast, the Patriots and Bills played in a basically a wind monsoon. 55-mile-an-hour gusts, 30-mile-an-hour winds pretty much the whole game. And snow flurries, whatever. Low scoring, ended up being 14-10. New England busted off a long touchdown run, and from there basically played ball control. Um, Mac Jones went 2 of 3 passing, but didn't throw his second pass until I think the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, after throwing only one through the first 3 quarters. So, uh, first off, we both predicted the Patriots to win this game. I think it was a lot different than both of us thought it would look. What were your initial reactions to the Patriots picking up a Monday Night Football win?
Well, first, I guess I'll say it's expected. I just think the Patriots from top to bottom are a better football team than the Bills. Um, what to make of how it was played, I guess I struggle with that because you don't see games like this. I mean, 30 miles an hour, 30 to 60 mile an hour wind constantly right down the middle of the field. Um, one team tried to play it like it was a normal game, and one team threw out every script to every game because this isn't like any other game, and decided we're just going to run the ball every play. And maybe that played against the Bills a little bit, thinking, okay, at some point it's like, which one's going to be the one where it's play action? So, like there's so many runs. I mean, the people at home had to have been waiting for it. When are they going to pull the cloth out from underneath the table and boom, there's going to be the pass? Just never came. I mean, one of the passes was literally a screen. Like you just dumped it off. So, I mean, they literally ran all game, straight up imposed their will. And the Patriots had one breakout touchdown run, and N'Keal Carey tried to catch a ball with his face real quick, and that's how the Bills got their touchdown. So you could argue both touchdowns were a little fluky considering they were so like out of nothing, but let's call that even. The Patriots were still the better team. I think Nick Wright had a fantastic quote when he said, Bill Belichick coaches every game as if his family has just been kidnapped, and the only way to see him again is to win that single game. He is the only coach, it seems like to me, that the team may or may not have an identity. He goes into each game with a completely new game plan, specifically designed to attack your weaknesses and take away your strengths. And fortunate enough, the win took away most of the Bills' strengths. He didn't need to do that himself, but not a lot of coaches call engage 8 on that last play and leave every corner ISO'd. So there was just a lot of like, wow, this game's just different in many ways. But this is a game where you throw out statistics and you say, who's going to do something to win the game? Patriots did. And although it was kind of a weird game to watch, the result in the end is what I thought it would be, a Patriots win.
Yeah, I thought New England would win this game, and as it got closer to game time with all the wind gusts, I thought to myself, yeah, I really thought New England was going to win the game. And the only thing that I thought would be the X factor in New England not winning the game was Josh Allen's legs, which you could argue weren't really a factor. I think he had a couple of different scrambles. There was one scramble. I hate blaming refs. There was one scramble where he is clearly going for the first down. The New England defender pushes him out of bounds, and they throw a unnecessary roughness flag that gave Buffalo the first down and allowed them to get the extra field goal. I was furious on the call. I didn't understand it, but regardless, going back, I was more impressed with this win than I thought I would have been. And the reason is it says a lot about a football team when you said it earlier, when you impose your will. New England ran the ball all but 3 plays. It's very clear on film. They started to stack the box. They understood, okay, New England's just not going to throw the ball tonight. It got to that point. Once you into the second and third quarter, they just understood we're no longer going to try. They're not going to throw the ball. You couldn't stop them. They were still getting their yardage, and it's like, in my opinion, that says a lot about a team's running game when it's like, well, we're going to run it, but you're not going to stop it. They were able to get field goals. They were able to obviously have the one big run, as you alluded to, which is definitely one of those things where maybe you throw that out the window. But Damian Harris ended up getting hurt late in the game after a big run. I just thought New England defensively put up a masterpiece. And again, it's wins, so I'm not trying to say like they shut Josh Allen down, but he was 15 of 30. Wind is obviously a factor, but at the same time, it's like they could have ran the ball. But what have I been saying about Buffalo now for a year and a half? They don't run it. They're not good.
Right.
And New England was the difference there.
It's a little bit of a question mark on. I know you're trying to keep up with today's league per se, but Buffalo's built their team to really not be successful in their home environment. You think about how much football matters this late, and getting off to a bad start could just nip them in the butt again. I mean, the Colts went up there, and Jonathan Taylor had 5 touchdowns on the Bills, and then you have the Patriots who run 45 or something like that plays, and they're able to come away with a win. And it wasn't pretty, but the Patriots aren't interested in pretty wins. Everyone knows that. And I feel like a lot of teams wish their team were. A lot of times you watch a game and you say, hey, if that's what that team's good at, why wouldn't we try and take that away? And the Patriots just don't do that. So the wind was something, the game was something, not throwing the ball, running this and that. But in the end, there is one stat that always matters, and it was 14-10 for the Patriots. And in the end, I'm not shocked. I will say I'm shocked that they're number 1 in the AFC. However, where their record's at, I kind of predicted. I just thought there would be teams with better records at this point in the AFC. But where the Patriots are, I thought I looked at it very objectively, looking at their schedule, and I didn't think 9-4 was something I would be shocked with, and I'm not. However, I'm a little shocked that the Chiefs, even the Bills, maybe the Chargers, Ravens, Titans got injured. They were on a roll, but say what you want. They're the number 1 seed, and if they lost that game, they would have been the number 5 seed. Same with the Bills. So it's huge. They have a 2-game lead over the Bills, and they play the Bills. Everyone's going to get to see them on a Saturday night, so they will be an ISO game. And the Bills, they've got the Buccaneers this week while the Patriots are on their bye. So that's not an easy game. So if they don't take care of the business against the Bucs, they could be looking at a real uphill battle here. And the Patriots, whether they get the bye or not, will at least host a playoff game or two, and that's scary.
2 more thoughts before we move on from this. There's been a lot of talk that New England was scared to let Mac Jones throw the football. I think Bill Belichick was scared to throw the football. I don't think it had anything to do with Mac Jones. I think he was scared to throw in a windstorm. He also said in his press conference that had the score been different, they would have thrown the ball. They were prepared to throw the ball. They had passing plays called or ready to go. They didn't feel, based off the game plan, they needed to change anything because A, they had the lead the entire game, and B, Buffalo was throwing it and they weren't having success. And I don't think anybody's arguing Josh Allen's better than Mac Jones. So, and Stephon Diggs is better than any wide receiver New England has. It's just one of those things where Bill Belichick won the game. That was a Bill Belichick game.
He's the best coach in the NFL.
Yeah, not close. Second thing that you just alluded to, the Bills are in trouble. And I'm not trying to rain on their parade, but they have Tampa. They have Tom Brady, whatever you want to say. Tom Brady's record is like 32-3 against Buffalo. It's very good. Okay. It's the best single record any person has against any one team. It's even better than Roethlisberger over the Browns. It's very good. Bills have a challenge with themselves this week. Next week, they have the Panthers, a very winnable game. The problem is they must go 2-0 in these next two games if they don't want New England to be playing for a T-shirt when they play in 3 weeks. A T-shirt meaning for the division title. This becomes huge for the Bills. They've basically backed themselves up into a corner, and now they have two huge games for themselves before they play New England in late December.
One little something. We're not going to get into it, but just heed the warning. I feel like you're overlooking the Colts.
I'm not. I am not.
All right.
It has nothing to do with New England. New England can still lose to the Colts. It does not matter. That game actually doesn't matter.
I see what you're saying.
If Bills lose, it's 100% of the Bills. The Bills must go 2-0 for it to not be a T-shirt game. It has nothing to do with New England.
Right.
New England
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah. I am not overlooking the Colts. I think it's going to be a great game. It
can't wait.
It definitely helps the Colts that they're at home, but it helps New England. They're coming off a bye. So huge matchup on a Saturday night. By the way, it'll be the only game on, so the whole world can see it. It'll be very fun. One more thing before we get going. What was I just about to allude to?
Was it either Patriots Bills or were you moving into Steelers Ravens?
I felt like it was about the Patriots, but it doesn't matter. Oh well, moving on. So, Steelers, you just alluded to, they got their big win this week. Both of us predicted it. I think I was a little more confident than you were, shockingly. But Ravens went for 2. First off, right call, wrong call.
Along with me not being confident, I picked them in my spread league and my straight up pick'ems league. I just have a hard time trying to find the bias. Huh?
We'd do that no matter what.
Against the Ravens, I just
pick your team, right?
It's just hard for me to find that balance between bias and fandom. Like it's hard. Like I don't want to cross that line. But anyway, it was absolutely the right call. It just sucks that they're not as good as the Steelers. You know, that's just the only thing. So I guess no, I'm just kidding. But so their team's way too injured, and that's part of we'll get to it in our top 10s and things like that. But the Ravens are just. Players are dropping everywhere. They were before the season. They were a little bit during the season, and they are now. I will say this. You try and win that game right away because I feel like your chances of converting a 2-point conversion with Lamar are higher than a coin flip, and both offenses were moving the ball pretty well. The only problem is you ran the play to TJ Watt's side. I don't understand why you would do that. Maybe it's because Lamar's right-handed. But the play was blown up, forced a sidearm pass. Someone might say it's catchable. But players are running in right on him. Even if he catches that, it's who knows if he even gets in. But when he went for 2, I didn't flinch in my living room. I was like, we expected this. Let's go. Big players make big plays. Minka and TJ both were exuding confidence all game. Cam was having a good game. All of our big players were on point. And, of course, he's going to try and go to Mark Andrews on TJ's side. And, players are going to make plays. So, it was the right call. I don't think anybody should look twice on if it was the right call. It just didn't work out, and that's just football. Sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah, 100% the right call. First off, I will never fault a coach for going for the win on the road. And I don't know why the idea is so taboo. Like, why is it taboo to have a team try to win the game? Like, why is it just expected that we're going to kick field goals to tie it at this point? Am I missing something? Like,
I think the only coaches that do that are coaches that don't fear they're going to lose their job. So a lot of coaches go with the conservative pick. You look at Mike Tomlin, he's done that. John Harbaugh, he's done that. Sean Payton, he's done that. Bill Belichick, he's done that. Pete Carroll has done that. When you look at some of these coaches that are like new to the job or they might lose their job, or maybe it's because of their quarterback, they'll kick the extra point and say, overtime it happened that, X's and O's didn't work out. But, I mean, John Harbaugh is like 50-50 or 51-49 shot at winning a coin toss, or we're 81% to get 2 yards. Like, if I'm a Ravens fan, until the ball hit the ground, I was very excited that we were going for 2, if I'm a Ravens fan. And as a Steelers fan, I think it's kind of a tip of the hat. Like, let's go. We've been playing the game. Let's end it right here at the goal line. Our strength versus your strength, something's got to give. And it ended up going the Steelers' way. We'll see them again. I just don't understand how it doesn't matter what players are on the field. it's exhausting that it's always got to come down to less than like 4 points. Like I just don't understand why that happens that way, but who knows? But
A lot of it has to do with, at this point, John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin have been going head to head now, regardless
30,
of who the quarterback is.
30 times. Last night was the 30th time Mike Tomlin went up 16-14. It was
literally a long time these two have been battling in this league, and I mean, both have Super Bowls, both have division titles, both have playoff wins. I mean, this is a huge rivalry. We've argued about this. This is probably the best rivalry in all of football, and rightfully so. So, I just thought it was the right call, and honestly, it was almost really the right call, because if he throws that ball just a tad softer, it's caught and it's going in, and it's a W. So, the one thing I will say is the Steelers continue to be a matchup nightmare for Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson has continuously put up subpar performances against them, and I don't think it's by accident. I think it's obviously a lot to do with the Steelers' defense and the way that Mike Tomlin just confidently calls games against them and isn't going to be intimidated by how Lamar plays.
The Dolphins committed a little more, but you have to blitz and force Lamar to throw. Your edges have to contain and you have to blitz. The benefit for the Steelers is that if they rush 5, that means Hayward and Watt are 1-on-1, which are both mismatches. So the Steelers have a luxury of doing it with less players, but the Dolphins showed, hey, we're going to take one guy out of our DB and we're going to have a safety blitz every play. And 20, they won by like 15 points or something like that on a Thursday night. And I'm not saying Lamar can't beat that, because if he gets free, that's a lot of guys already behind him. But more often than not, you saw Lamar would move the ball down the field. Minkah with a second interception, or an interception in back-to-back games. He is prone to making mistakes. The Browns can do that with Clowney and Garrett. 4 interceptions. How they didn't win, I don't know. But the thing is there is a way to not beat or figure out Lamar, but that's the way to make it difficult. And if you're not going to play that way, he's going to run and he's going to start to find his comfort, and you just can't do that. But the Steelers get a win, while the entire AFC North is on a 1-game losing streak outside of them. So it was a big win with the Bengals and Ravens going down. TJ Watt, everyone's talked about how he's missed 2 games. Also, in the game he got hurt, it was at the end of the first quarter. So he's missed 11 quarters and leads the league in sacks by 2. So he's just it's so crazy to have someone so dominant so consistently on the defensive side to be able to change games. So again, you ran the play and you turned right. I mean, TJ Watt's right there. I mean, it's just right call, didn't execute, but this division's going to be wide open for the rest of the year. Any one of these teams can still host a playoff game.
The one thing I will say, and maybe you have it in front of me, where are the Steelers at currently in the AFC standings?
They are 3rd at 6-5-1.
No, that's the AFC North. Where are they in the conference?
Oh, they are 8. I don't have it in front of me, but last time I saw it, they are the first team outside the wild card.
They are. So I have it now.
Bills and Chargers, and the Steelers hold the tiebreaker over the Bills.
Yeah. So you get the Bengals one more time. You hold the tiebreak over the Bills. I don't believe you played the Chargers at all.
Bengals again. They beat us twice.
Oh, okay. Yikes. Okay, sorry. My apologies.
We beat the Browns and the Ravens each once and got swept by the Bengals, but we still have the Browns and the Ravens each once. We have the tiebreak over the Bills, and we still play the Chiefs and Titans. Hard games. Titans are a little less hard without Derrick Henry and potentially without A.J. Brown or Julio. But at the same time, those teams, all of them are 1 or 2 games ahead, and we get to play all of them. It's all right in front of us. We still hold our own destiny. It just looks a lot more difficult than it is for some teams.
Yeah, and the Steelers would have the worst conference record of anybody except Kansas City that's currently in the playoffs. So they do have an uphill battle, but this is still very much a playoff contender and somebody to be taken seriously. So,
and who knows how the team's going to rally after Ben announcing his last year.
Thank you. I'm glad you brought that up, because we're gonna shift to this. So obviously, Big Ben announces it's gonna privately. Nothing's breaking news. Scheffler did report it, but Ben has not spoken on this except for his teammates. Told him it's probably his last year with the Steelers, and I think that's something to definitely rally around. And that's one of the several reasons I picked them to beat the Ravens. But let's talk about realistic 2022 QB options for the Steelers. And what I wanted to do here is I wanted to throw out some names. So I have 10 options here. And I kind of want you to give me an excitement level from 10 to 1.
Yeah.
Okay. And feel free to elaborate too with the number as well. But it's definitely up for argument some of the quarterbacks I may give and how they would be obtained. Okay, whether it be trade, free agency, cut, released, whatever. We'll save that from argument's sake. I'm just going to give you a quarterback. So we'll start here. Currently on the roster is your starting quarterback. So that could be either
Mason or Dewey.
Mason. Thank you. Yep. So Dwayne Haskins or Mason Rudolph. What is your excitement level going forward in 2022 with one of those two guys?
My excitement level would be a 3. I'm not going to go as far as to say a 1 because fully handing over the team to one of these two, maybe they break through. Small chance, but maybe they could. Physically, they have the tools, I believe, but I don't think either of them are starting quarterbacks in this league. And both of them are just hard guys for me to root for. Dwayne Haskins came from Michigan. Doesn't seem like he takes those seriously.
Ohio State.
I meant to say Ohio State. Sorry. Mason Rudolph. It's just hard to root for that guy. I'm not going to go in any more than that. So it would be a 3, borderline 2, but sad days.
Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan. It would be I'm going to say a 3. I'm going to say a 3 because I believe it would just be a reoccurring Ben Roethlisberger. I think Matt Ryan's at that stage. He's not very mobile. He would be really expensive, and he's already 37 years old. So Matt Ryan is good, and he's doing well with the Falcons, and he's right now playing better football than Big Ben. But I believe he's not enough to get us over the hump. He's not young enough to be the future, and he's old enough to where it would just kind of be a Big Ben all over again. So I would not like Matt Ryan. 37 years old. He's going to be double the price of what Big Ben was. I wouldn't be super excited.
Give me at least a 4. You got to accept him over Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. Come on.
They're going to be cheaper options, and the quarterback's not going to be the difference maker with Matt Ryan, I don't think, at 37.
Honesty. All right. Brad is your American honesty broker, guys. He never lies.
Hey, I'm just trying to.
Hey, Matt Ryan. It's all good. It's all good. Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones has mobility, upside, but I just feel like he has all the weapons he could have over there at the Giants. They've got a pretty good roster, and he can't get the job done. How much does he? This one I'll give a 4.
There is a talk that his option would be declined, therefore he'd be a free agent. Money would be obviously on the table.
I'm going to say a 5 because I wasn't totally against the Daniel Jones pick when he came into the draft as much as other people were. 5 is not a great number either, but Daniel Jones is mobile behind a rebuilding offensive line. We're a running back team first with Najee Harris, and he's got a great defense, but his turnover issues scare me. I don't think he's that big of a difference maker, but there is upside. Maybe he didn't live up to it because of the Giants. Maybe it's on him, but it would just be a 5. I really wouldn't be. It would be, we'll see. It would be a we'll see.
Tua Tagovailoa.
4. Again, I think it's partially a 4 because I just don't see him leaving Miami. But he just
No. This happens.
Okay, all right.
Breaking news. Now I need you to give me the excitement level. Don't put it off for your predictions. This is
okay.
This is your quarterback.
All right. Tua's coming. I'm going to give it a 6. I think Tua is showing great signs with an offense committed to his skill set. He has limited mobility, but enough. He uses his tight ends well in Miami. We have a great one in Pat Freiermuth. We have weapons on the perimeter. He'll still have a great defense. I see Tua turning into doing good things here. So I would be at a 6 with Tua. I would be more on the positive side. I think there's a lot of upside with him. I've been higher on him than most people, I think, in the past few months.
All right, so I have 10 options written down. Of the 10, I believe those last 4 that I just led you, including the guys that are on the roster, are the least likely. But I wanted to get some names out there that people maybe aren't thinking of. Now I'm going to go with the ones that I think are just as likely as any. Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'm gonna say a 6, just like Tua. The reason why 6 is he can throw the ball really well. His arm, I like Jimmy Garoppolo's arm. I think he's got leadership. I think he's very calm and poised. He's not going to make too many mistakes. It would just be injury. Injury is the only thing that worries me. It seems like he's constantly missing games. And whenever Big Ben's missed games, our backups have been terrible. So the Steelers clearly are looking for that guy to be in there for a long time. But it would still be on the more positive scale because he's not too old right now. How old is Jimmy? 30. So he's still got the better part of at least 6 to 8 years left in the NFL. So I think it would be a 6. Him and Tua are about the same for me. Different styles a little bit.
Very intrigued by this one. I heard this one today, and it's a quarterback that I've always heard you speak somewhat fondly of. Mitchell Trubisky.
Mitch Trubisky. I would be. I think I would be. People are gonna think I'm crazy. I think I'd be a 6. It's still better than negative. The problem is he can't hit the deep ball, and a lot of the Steelers' offense is predicated on the deep ball. I like his mobility. He's a big body. I think he's had flashes of what he potentially could be in the right situation. The Bears, I mean, that was just a nightmare of a situation. Everyone calling for his head. They traded up, in the draft to get him. So I think he was behind the ball. But he does lack throwing ability. But I mean, maybe as a bridge guy to our next real franchise quarterback, he would be a better option than anything we have. So I would be at a 6, but I'm not hoping to hear Trubisky's name.
All right. So, like I just said, the first 4 I read, I don't put those very likely. Jimmy and Mitch, I think there's a good chance of any. But these next 4 options, I think, are probably the most likely of any others. Okay. Quarterback from the draft. Now, first off, just knowing you're going to draft a quarterback, you don't know who it's going to be. Just knowing the Steelers are saying, we're not trading for anybody, we're going to draft a guy. Give me your excitement level.
8. I think there's a few guys in this draft that could do it. Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder would be the top 3 on my list. Any particular order. Probably Matt Corral 1, Desmond Ridder 2, Kenny Pickett 3. I think Matt Corral is the most ready. Desmond Ridder, sweet name, number 9, doing it for Cincinnati from Ohio. Cool story. And Kenny Pickett, I think he's 3rd on these quarterbacks, even though he's a Heisman candidate, but he's from Pittsburgh. He's already playing in the stadium. So, but I would be very excited, especially if we got one of those guys in the 2nd round. I don't know how likely that is. Haven't really dug into the draft, but anytime you draft a quarterback in the 1st round, you've got to be excited that you have a chance to have the franchise. And knowing that you drafted him, the organization really likes him and is behind that guy. So 8 out of 10 if we were to draft a quarterback.
Deshaun Watson.
10 out of 10 if the cases are resolved. Obviously, that's a whole legal issue, but assuming he's going to play football and the cases are gone, I mean, 10 out of 10. That's a guy who I've always put when playing as a top 5 quarterback in the league. He doesn't make very many mistakes. He's a magician in the pocket. He can pick up trash yards with his legs. He can run designed runs. He can run an offense. He can throw the deep ball, the short ball. He's been nothing but an absolute all-pro quarterback since he's been drafted into the league, and he's only 26 years old. I don't care if you have to pay him. You can usually pay two guys top dollar, TJ Watt, Deshaun Watson. Let's run it. Anytime you have a quarterback of that caliber, 10 out of 10.
Russell Wilson.
10 out of 10. I actually maybe put Deshaun Watson at a 9 if we should only have 110, but these are the two guys that I'm really hoping to hear their name. Russell Wilson, 10 out of 10. He's still got 7 good years left in the league, especially the way he takes care of his body. And for all the reasons I've said about Deshaun Watson, double down on it with Russell Wilson. Deep ball accuracy, mobility, read a defense, leadership, veteran, presence in the locker room, has a great defense. And I know they're not the same caliber names, but look at it how you want. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson are similar style receivers in terms of the routes they excel at and how they play. So Russell Wilson, I think, would have somewhat familiarity with the offense. And we can afford that guy because every single person on our offense is basically on a rookie deal or a 1-year deal. So we have a lot of cap space, and Russell Wilson, 10 out of 10, man, would love it.
Last one here. This is probably the name that everybody assumed I would have started with, but here we go. Aaron Rodgers.
We're gonna go 9, 8 to 9. I'm leaning more 8 to 9 than 10 to 9. Aaron Rodgers, out of all the names, is the best quarterback you've just named. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Or none.
Anywhere he wants, however he wants, from any position he wants, he is total magic. The only downfalls are he's 38 years old. So, like, how much time do you even have left to pay a guy like that? And secondly, he's an interesting attitude in your locker room. I don't know if he would gel with the guys in our locker room, especially on offense. I just think he would honestly come in and really not get along with most of the guys. We have a lot of like guys on social media and younger and learning. And Aaron Rodgers, I don't think is looking for that. Little side bit, Aaron Rodgers to the Saints is what I would think if the cap space could work. I think we talked about it briefly. It probably won't. But Aaron Rodgers, if he came, don't get me wrong, 8 or 9, man. Like, let's go. We got Aaron Rodgers. But that means we have a 2 to 3 year Super Bowl run. I'll be more excited with Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, knowing that for the next 8 to 12 years, we have a guy under center that can literally beat you himself. Even if the play calling's not right or this isn't right, that's not right, can just do it. So those would be.
And you'd have the best quarterback in your division again.
Yeah, with either of those last 3 named.
It's been a while since that's been the case for you guys. So.
Yeah.
Moving right along here, something I wanted to touch on. So the 2020 salary cap was somewhere in the vicinity of, I believe, 198 million. Don't quote me, but it was right around there. For the first time in a long, long time, the salary cap for this year dropped. It dropped drastically. Currently sitting at $182.5 million that teams are using to spend. It's projected to not only get back to where it was, but increase to a record $25 million increase to 208. So $208 million. It's the first time it'll be over 208 or over 200 million. Lots of money to spend on average. So 25.5 million. Just to put things in perspective, DeAndre Hopkins makes 27 this year. Tom Brady makes 25 million. That's a very good Pro Bowl player. I don't believe there's a single corner in this league that's making over 19 million. So that's an all-pro corner. I don't believe outside of Aaron Donald, I don't believe there's too many defensive tackles making that amount of money. I think TJ Watt might be in that range. This is basically enough to go out and get an all-pro player. Lots of money. What is your opinions on the large increase?
I think you're going to see 3 different categories of teams over this next offseason. The one is teams who don't know what to do with it. Like, what do we do with this? Maybe they don't go hard enough for free agents and it passes them by. They don't have the guys to spend it on it. Those kind of guys who maybe pick up a plethora of players in the offseason with it. The second thing is like teams like the Colts, who are projected to have the 6th most. I think they take a lot of that and pay their players that they have now. Offensive line, Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. They have the stud corner and Kenny Moore. Teams who think they have a great roster and can really sure up their own before looking elsewhere. And then you're going to have some teams that are just big spenders, kind of like the Patriots were this last offseason that, hey, we've got a core here, but we want to really put a lot around them. Or you look at maybe teams that are like, we think we're a secondary away from being a Super Bowl contender, and they go hard in those positions. But I think it's very exciting for the league. One of the things people talk about with the NBA is their free agency and their signings and players going everywhere. When it comes to trading, signing, extending. It's going to be a fun-filled offseason with a lot of Adam Schefter posts and Ian Rappaport posts being shared in the Real Talk Facebook page. A lot of teams going to be sad that players walk, but a lot of teams going to be happy that maybe they have that money to pay their guy now. Maybe the Steelers didn't know what to do with Minkah Fitzpatrick, but he's starting to come on late this season, has a couple picks. You can now pay your all-pro safety and keep him on the team. You don't really have to worry about that before going out. Or teams, I know I hate to use the Steelers as an example again, got to replace their quarterback. Let's go get that guy, trade some draft picks, and use this salary cap to take care of the most important position on the field. So it's going to be a lot of movement, a lot of extending, a lot of signing, a lot of free agents. But, man, it's just good for the league. The more money teams have, the more they can pay players, the more flexibility they have with rosters, and it's always exciting.
Yeah. Yep. You nailed it on the head. I think it's power ranking time.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Two things first. One with the Steelers, a dark horse guy that I would be at a 7 for.
Oh, yeah.
If Taylor Heinicke got away from Washington, like I said, I don't think he's the best quarterback, but he's younger, and that dude's a warrior. I just love watching him fight every Sunday, and I think he's just got some kind of quality that, like, you can just attach yourself to that guy and really root for him. I think that's half the battle when looking for your quarterback. Second thing.
I'm glad you brought him up. Real quick, I'm glad you brought him up because, first off, I didn't even think of him. Does he not just fit Pittsburgh's mold? Smash mouth, tough as nails.
I think there might be a second guy too. Either of those Eagles quarterbacks that get let go. Minshew, Hurts, Heinicke. I think those are three guys from the NFC East that Washington, Philadelphia, they're in the area already that I think that could come in and really capture the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not the Big Ben style 6'5" guy, but they all have a little bit of mobility, which I think the Steelers have been lacking at the quarterback position. They all have NFL starting experience, and they're all waiting for an organization to really commit to them. Maybe the Eagles have with Hurts, but after this last performance, is there a little bit of Minshew mania creeping in? But I think if any of those three guys walked in, they would immediately be better than Rudolph, Haskins, and it'd all be affordable and young options. If what the reports are true that the Steelers do not plan to go through the draft, they want something that they've seen on the field. I don't want like a Drew Lock or Teddy if one of those guys leaves. But Heinicke, Hurts, Minshew, if somehow Derek Carr gets away from the Raiders, those are a lot of guys I've also thought of in the mix.
Okay. Well, let's get down to the power rankings here. Going through this week, I'm all over the board. There's teams that probably shouldn't still be there, but the record stayed otherwise, and there's teams that maybe had some momentum and then lost, and I'm all over the board. But here we go. I feel like every week it's really hard to give a 10th spot and then drop that team out. So what I've been doing these last couple weeks is I've either been giving an 11-team power rankings or I've been doing a 10/. I'm doing another 10/ this week. Tied at 10. A better football team and a growing football team. Just because I didn't want to leave a really good team out, but I didn't want to leave a hot team out. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Tied at 10, I have the Baltimore Ravens and I have the Washington football team. Washington football team is red hot. You just talked about it. Taylor Heinicke, that defense, a team that I have basically dug my foot in and said they're not very good, they're not improved. Well, they're catching fire just like they did late in the season last year. They've gotten much better. I believe they are currently just on the outside looking in of this playoff spot, the 8th seed. I'm sorry, they're the 6th. They are currently a playoff team. The Washington football team, I repeat, is currently a playoff team. And the weird thing, we talked about this a couple weeks ago with the Ravens. They've only played one divisional game and they won it. They're on a win. They've won 4 in a row.
Have their schedule.
Hit me. Let's go. You know we love doing this.
Cowboys.
Winnable.
Eagles.
Winnable.
Cowboys.
Okay, stop right there. So right there, that's all we need to know. Those next 3 games determines the outcome of this season. Period. But keep going.
Cowboys.
Eagles. Cowboys.
Cowboys. Eagles.
Stop it. That's not their schedule.
Giants. It's their last 5 games, all in division. Cowboys, Eagles, Giants. That's their last 5.
This team legitimately holds their own destiny. They have nobody to blame but themselves if they don't make the playoffs.
They're 2 games behind the Cowboys in record, 6-6 to 8-4, and they play them twice. They control their own destiny.
100% control their own destiny.
Keep going.
Absolutely wild. So I have them tied with the Ravens, who, despite a loss, okay, they're still 8-4. Weirdly enough, they started 1-0 in their division, and now they've dropped 2 in a row. But they are 5-4 against the conference. And at this point, they're worth being number 10. Number 9, though, I was super impressed with this team over the weekend. The Chargers. They've been so up and down. We've been super high on them. We've been super low on them. I think I'm just starting to get lukewarm with them. They're a good football team. And when they don't have a defensive lapse, they're hard to beat because they score on just about everybody. I like them at 9. They're currently a playoff team, by the way. They're the 5 seed. Sitting at number 8 on my list. I can't leave this team off, even though they're the most decimated team in the league. They still have enough wins to brag about. It's the Tennessee Titans. They definitely have a case for being off the list because it is a power rankings. But as of right now, I have to have them at 8. Number 7, the LA Rams. Jeff, they only beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know. But they are the Rams. They are 8-4. I have high aspirations. I haven't lost hope like a lot of people have. Okay. 6, Dallas. This can very quickly get Dallas out of the top 10 if they're playing Washington over these next couple weeks. They got to put Washington away. If they stomp Washington this week, they're probably going to move up in my power rankings. That's where I'm at with this team. They're good enough to beat anybody. We'll prove it because now it's put up or shut up. Number 5. The reason I haven't crowned this team like everybody else, and I stated it earlier in this pod, I don't think anybody caught it. The Kansas City Chiefs are 3-4 against the AFC. I have them at 5. I don't think they're back like everybody's been saying. They have won 5 in a row. But they're 8-4 on the year and 3-4 against the conference they're going to have to beat to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they've beat Washington, Giants, Packers, Cowboys, Eagles. So they're 5-0. Is that right? In their record,
they swept the NFC East. You know how many other teams swept the NFC East in 2020? Tons.
And they beat the Packers without Aaron Rodgers.
So obviously they only got 5 NFC teams to play, right? And they went 5-0 against them.
Correct.
That's huge. But they can't even beat the teams in their conference that they're going to have to beat to get to the Super Bowl. I don't love them. I'm sorry. I have them at 5, and you're like, well, Jeff, I'm just not ready to crown them. They're a good football team. Obviously, they beat Denver the other night, who, I mean, to be honest, I've been pretty fair. I haven't been high on Denver this year. I don't think that's a great win. I don't know. I think their best win to date for me is probably the Raiders. And what are the Raiders? I don't know. I don't know. I have them at 5. I'm probably contradicting myself. I should probably have them lower. But if they play the Chargers again, what happens if the Chargers run them? That's just where I'm at. Regardless, moving on.
We're gonna their next 5 games: Raiders, Chargers, Steelers, Bengals, Broncos. All teams trying to scrape into the playoffs in the AFC. Three of them in division.
Here's the thing. They have 5 games left, right? You just said that?
Mm-hmm.
3-2. This is a good football team. 2-3, they're not. Sorry. You lucked out by going 5-0 against NFC. You go 2-3 in your next 5, and you get in the playoffs, which they would. They would get in the playoffs with 10 wins. With the way the AFC is, they're getting in with 2 more wins. But I'm sorry, I'm not going out on a limb and crowning them like everybody else is. I'm just not there. 4, Green Bay. They're on a bye this week, but I think I had them at 4 last week. I keep them here. They're just as good as anybody. I just don't like them over these next 3 teams. Number 3, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I mean, after beating the Colts in a comeback from behind victory, Tom Brady just owns the Falcons. This is what he does. He owns the Bills, he owns the Falcons, he owns the Jets. It's just it is what Tom Brady does. I have them at 3, and they seem to be as healthy as they're going to be this year. Probably not going to see Antonio Brown. More stories on that to come. Number 2, New England. I didn't want to move them into the top spot because I don't think they're better than the first team. I almost moved them down, but as I alluded to start the show, I was so impressed that the entire stadium knew they were going to run, and the Bills had no answer. New England's going to play them again in a couple of weeks. I don't know what's going to happen with the Colts game, but I think New England will beat Buffalo again. So I got them at 2. Number 1. Did we miss Kyler Murray? Dude comes back and just balls. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins comes back and just balls. I mean, legitimately, if we doubted that this team wasn't the best team, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins took a month off, went on the road to Chicago, and just balled up Chicago. The Arizona Cardinals, they're such a fun team. First off, I'm happy for the Cardinals. It's very seldom they actually have a really good team. And they have a really fun team to watch, a good team, a team that you can feel good about rooting for. Cardinals at 1.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot, including a lot more than just our Real Talk rankings. And we're about to hit our hour mark, so I'm going to kind of be brief because I looked at this for way too long to not have a definitive top 10. We post so much, or at least I do, about how even the AFC is and how many teams there are. So I honestly, and this might be crazy to you, but from 7 to 16, okay, you do your 10, 11, 7 to 16, put them any order you want.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Cowboys, Chargers, Rams, Bills, Ravens, Titans, Washington, Bengals, Steelers. Put them in any order you want, and I can't argue with you. I just can't do it. The Cowboys took a step back because they were injured. If they start to rally some wins again, including the 2 Washington games they've got coming up, they will excel past that. But at this moment, there's nothing. Every team's beaten every team. Every team's lost to this team. This team can't run one week, can the other. Shut out a team, allow 30 the next week. Score 16, score 32. I really can't definitively say what team's better, and it's a blessing because watching from a neutral perspective, these games are just impossible to call. But I'm just going to put that as 7 through 16. You can just do what you want with those. However, with my top 6, personally, I feel these are the top 3 teams in the AFC and the top 3 teams in the NFC. Number 6, I have the Colts. Okay? You guys can look at their last month, what they've done after their slow start. The Colts have an MVP candidate at running back. They travel. Their defense is playing amazing. Their run game, they have the best O-line in the NFL, I believe. Carson Wentz is playing well. I think the Colts are the 3rd best team in the AFC, and I can't wait to watch them play the Patriots. But again, we talked about what's going to happen the first 5. It happened, and now, although the schedules aren't the same difficulty, they are only 1 game behind the Titans. Moving on to number 5, I have the Chiefs. Like you pointed out in their schedule, there are some reasons for this and some reasons for that, why they're scheduled the way it is. But their defense, I believe I have the picture here if I can pull it up fast enough.
It's been good.
Yeah, since week 6, the Dolphins have allowed 16.8 points, Patriots 14, Chiefs 13.7. Now, I know opponents can be opponents, but they've still held their opponents in the last 8 games under 14 points. That's amazing. We're still waiting for that offense to go off like we hope it or we think it's going to. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But right now, this defense has been playing really, really well. And I know maybe that's contradictory because maybe some people listening are like, Brad, you named off like 84 teams at the beginning, and the Dolphins weren't one of them. What the heck's going on? They beat the Texans, the Jets, the Panthers, and the Giants on their 5-game winning streak and upset the Ravens. Kudos on the Ravens game. Texans, Jets, Giants, Panthers.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't the Ravens the first one of those teams?
No, it was Texans, Ravens, Jets,
Okay.
Panthers, Giants.
Okay.
And now they have the Jets again, then the Saints, who can't win without Jameis. Then they have the Titans, who might not have Derrick Henry, and the Patriots, who may have the number 1 seed locked up. So who knows what's going on there? Giant Dolphins.
New England doesn't rest starters, though.
Yeah, okay, but
they notoriously don't rest starters.
Either way,
so they'd have to play that one.
This team is what, 6-7, and they're on a hot streak with Jets, Saints coming up next. They could be 8-7 heading into their last 2 games. So,
is there a chance? Talking about Miami here, that we overlooked how hard their schedule was to start the year, like the Colts, and we gave them not enough credit, and now they're playing bad teams and they're beating them? Or do you think they're just beating bad teams?
They lost in overtime to the Raiders, and they lost to the Jaguars by 3, and they lost to the Falcons by 2.
I'll shut up. I don't know.
I mean, it's a real like, dang man, Dolphins missed an actual opportunity with this schedule. I think on those 3 games, Raiders, Falcons, Jags. If they win one of those, we're talking about a 7-6 team going into these games. So we'll forgive the Dolphins, but I just wanted to clarify that because I know I went through a lot of teams. Some people are like, you don't have the Dolphins in the top 16. They really they're playing well right now. But let's move on. Number 4, 3, and 2. We got 4, Tampa. I mean, they're as consistent with Gronk in the lineup as you could be. It's funny that they're both 80 in combined age, and we don't talk about Mike Evans and Godwin even. It's just Brady and Gronk doing the thing. Occasionally he'll give Fournette a bone, and the defense does their thing. This team's got what it takes to win. They've got Brady. They're going to be there in the end. I have them at 4. Packers at 3. I believe they may have the best team, but they were on a bye, and I saw 2 other teams do some stuff this weekend, so we forget about the Packers for now. Number 2 is your only double-digit win team in the Arizona Cardinals. I do think they are an amazing team and have every right for number 1, but the Patriots are on a 7-game win streak. That's the tiebreaker. They've won 7 straight. Rookie quarterback. Let's figure out what we're going to do. Stephon Gilmore's not playing. What are we going to do with him? Okay, we got our team. Win, 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 win. And 2 of their losses out of 4 are a buzzer beater to the Cowboys and a buzzer beater to the Buccaneers. 2 teams a lot of people value very highly. So I just think they have the best coach, arguably the best defense, arguably the best special teams, and a quarterback who's playing clean, good football. And he's more healthy at this moment than Kyler. Doesn't take hits like Kyler. And they're just robots in New England. So give me New England at number 1. But I believe those are your top 4 in any order. Patriots, Cardinals, Packers, Bucks. I personally think the Colts and the Chiefs are the 2 best teams in the AFC outside the Patriots. But again, outside the Patriots, 12 teams have somewhere between 6 and 8 wins. Tiebreakers everywhere. 5 games still have to go. A lot are in conference, and it's just going to get crazier and crazier.
Last thing before we head out here.
Yeah.
By request, we've been asked to cover Thursday night football matchups. It just so happens that the last couple have included our teams, but Steelers at Vikings this week. Steelers coming off a pretty big win. Vikings coming off it's a bad loss. They lost to the Lions. They gave the Lions their first win of the season. Where are you at on this one?
One team tied the Lions. No, realistically looking at it, the Steelers are playing pretty good football. They've lost some games, sure, but outside of playing the Bengals this year, they've played every game good. The Bengals seem to have their number this year. Pains me to say that, but the Bengals have beat us twice and by many a score. So you look at the Vikings. Dalvin Cook out. Adam Thielen out. Their best pass rusher, Danielle Hunter, out. Their best middle linebacker, Kendricks, out. Patrick Peterson, their best corner, didn't play last game. I think it was another guy. I don't know if it was their second safety or their third corner, but one of their top two corners remaining was out. The Vikings are hurt. Kirk Cousins is a statue. TJ Watt, humming. Minka, a pick in the last two games. The defense is playing well. Big Ben in the farewell tour gets to play a injured, weak defense that seemingly gives up a ton of points. I can't wait for the Steelers to beat the Vikings pretty big on primetime football. Kirk Cousins already shrinks in the spotlight. I think the Steelers actually, 3 weeks ago, I would not have been this confident, but the way things are shaping up, the Steelers, I believe, are about to go up. I think the Steelers are going to beat the Vikings. They can play the Chiefs head to head, I think, very well the way they're playing right now. Titans with no Derrick Henry, give me that one too. Browns give it to me. Ravens give it to me. You know, I forget who said it on our Good Morning podcast, but he said,
It was Tom.
he said Steelers went out, man. I'm looking at the schedule. I think at worst we're 3-2, and I don't think one of those losses are the Vikings. So I can't wait to see what the Steelers do. Hopefully we sneak in the playoffs. Can't wait to see how that goes. But Bengals, Joe Burrow, hands the size of a bowling ball. Ravens, people are starting to blitz Lamar Jackson, teams on the down. Browns, quarterback should be basically in a wheelchair. The man's just hurt all over. Steelers could still do this thing, man. We could still see a Heinz Field game in January in the playoffs.
Well, I feel like I brag about this, and I'm going to have to actually look up what my record is calling Steeler games this year because I feel like I've been really good at predicting them. But I'm taking the Vikings this week. Vikings are at home. They just come off an embarrassing loss. And I just don't think that the Steelers have. First off, Madison is an underrated replacement for Cook, and Justin Jefferson has been absolutely terrific. Kirk Cousins on a Thursday night does worry me, but they're at home. Steelers may be overconfident in this one. I like the Vikings to pull off an upset, 24-21. Sorry, buddy. Sorry. I am going to look up what my record is predicting Steelers games this year because I feel like I have bragged about it, and I'll post it on the Real Talk page for anybody that cares. So,
hey, by the way,
go ahead.
The Steelers, I don't remember what the spread was. I think it's like 3.5. Steelers are underdogs this Thursday with a better record and a more healthy team going to Minnesota this Thursday night. They're 3.5 points, I think.
Minnesota's a tough place to play.
We talked about that, though. Home teams are 3 points in the spread. So they're 0.5. They're basically in this.
Yeah.
But Big Ben farewell tour, shoo.
Hey, that's huge. That's some juice, man. That's some juice. Well, guys, we went almost an hour. It's been real. We gave you everything we got. Hope you guys dug it. Catch us Sunday for the live show. Real Talk.
Yep, go Steelers, baby.